When does photography become art? When do we look at a photograph and think it has surpassed its original intent of capturing a moment in time to become a document of what is timeless? Saul Leiter has done that, Eugene Smith has done that as well. But today I wanted to highlight someone else, Rodney Smith, and with that, detail exactly when and how photography becomes art. If you're familiar with the channel, you're probably remembering a video that I've done not that long ago, I believe a few months back, on photographer Rodney Smith. And in that video, I detailed aspects of his career and how he came to step into the fashion photography industry and how he became one of the best of his time. But what is important to retain from that video is how Smith's style evolved over time from his early images and Walker Evans's inspired portraits to stepping into commercial assignments and at last blending different influences and aspects into a visual uniqueness that at the same time promotes a level of timelessness and a memorable quality. However, one cannot look at these photos and not consider the practicality of working in the fashion industry. Personally, I admire the photo and compositional elements before I can ever question myself on how or where can I potentially acquire a similar look. And while slightly beside the point, because I don't really want to look like these models, the fact is I don't look at these people as being models. I don't look at these photos from a point of view of fashion, but rather I look at them as a whole piece beyond that. Which brings me to our first answer on the question of how does photography become art? It does so when it breaks the barriers of genre. Now, what does this exactly mean? In my perspective, this exists when an image or images break the expectations and rules of the genres in which they were first created within. So here we have, in the case of Rodney Smith, we have fashion photography, but that becomes more than that. When we look at fashion photography in general, we are usually presented with three aspects: a beautiful body, male or female, a redefined scenery, place or landscape or setting. This can include lighting and shadow as well, if they're very dramatic or expressive, and of course, attractive clothes, accessories, or jewelry. It's a code. It's made in such a way in order to appeal to your predisposition as a human being to admire what is beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. Kind of like when they say, the eyes eat first. And while looking at the images produced by Rodney Smith, we can recognize these same three aspects or elements. It's the symmetry within the composition, the dreamlike depicted scenarios, and visual paradoxes that elevate these images past simple fashion photography examples, turning them into images that instead break the barriers of the genre because they fundamentally present us viewers with something else, a vision. Other photographers that I would put under this same category or umbrella of art photography, if you will, would be perhaps Saul Leiter, Ernst Haas, and of course Eugene Smith. And funny enough, Eugene Smith has been quoted in one of the books that you're seeing on screen, Leap of Faith in particular, that is made in partnership with the Getty Museum. And he's been quoted as being one of the influences of Rodney Smith. And in the book, they detail this and go into more detail into other aspects of Rodney's career and influences. So if you're interested, I'll leave links below to the books that you're seeing on screen, so you can, better dive and dedicate some time into exploring the work of Rodney Smith. But one important thing is that when we put all these photographers or their examples of their photography side by side, they're, very different in, subject matter, composition, and whatnot. But there's one thing that makes these images stand out, and that is vision. And if you ask me why is that, I can tell you that in my answer lies the belief that vision is the art of seeing what is invisible. And that is actually the paraphrasing of the original quote by Irish author Jonathan Swift, which went like this: "Vision is the art of seeing what is invisible to others." But here I argue that vision is the ability to see the world in our own individual way, a way that combines who we are and what we've been through, what shaped us as individuals, with the inspiration and the art that mostly speaks to us, all to be then projected onto the blank canvas that is the world around us. This is what I see with Rodney Smith. He had a vision as to how things would or should play out in the scenes that he photographed. And note that I'm not denying here the great role of his creative collaborators. What I'm telling you is that in spite of all of this, Rodney Smith's vision comes across as eccentrically creative, as exactly precise, like a fine-tuned machine. But still, on this question of vision, I wanted to add a few relevant aspects that play into this idea of having a vision in itself. Number one is on being precise and concise, and number two is on the importance of visual motive. Being precise and concise in your vision is to often touch on similar ideas, producing similar feelings that connect either the different aspects of your work or the different photos that are part of your portfolio. And in order to do that, visual motives are extremely important, whether those come in the form of similar ways of composing, a similar feel your photos transmit, or actual presence of visual props that repeat themselves. In the case of Rodney Smith, we have hats, nets, umbrellas, staircases, to name a few. These bring forward a whimsical, sophisticated, yet accessible vision that the photographer has. Yet not all is as simple as appearances suggest. Journalist and former editor of Vanity Fair Graydon Carter writes in the introduction of Rodney Smith, A Leap of Faith, quote, "A Rodney Smith photograph can be whimsical but solemn, composed but candid, still but full of movement, mysterious but revealing, desperate but funny. To Rodney, paradox was not just a tool, it was the tool." This is yet another aspect that in my eyes elevates a photograph, that turns it effectively into an art piece. It all resides at some point in a paradox, most times visual, sometimes idealistic. Let's observe some photos. A scene where everything is so precise, yet the figure walking or running past this precise scenario is out of focus. A moment in time where everything is so beautiful, defined, and inviting, yet the identity of those in the photos is wary and concealed. A first impression ruled by intense beauty, yet a second look invites a newly formed layer of mystery. A suspended kiss on a bustling New York street. Still images, yet at times full of movement. Director David Lean once told his cinematographer, quote, "You should be able to cut out any frame of a roll of film and put a picture frame around it and hang it on your wall and admire it." And this is what I feel happens with the work of Rodney Smith, and especially after having a look at these amazing books and some of the contact sheets. And it's very, very interesting that, he was so precise yet wildly creative. I absolutely adore the formality of it all or the symmetry of it all, but how at the same time dreamy like the scenarios are. And if you're interested, we've talked about some of his inspirations and influences in the last video, so I'll leave links to that down below, and I'll leave links to these amazing books as well down below, which, by the way, I'd like to thank so much one person that really helped me put this video together, and that was, of course, Leslie Smolin, who was the wife and a close creative collaborator of Rodney Smith for over 30 years, and she currently manages his estate. And I really appreciate her time for sending me these books as well, because it really helped me understanding and also opening up this really interesting discussion of, can photography become an art and how can it do so? And I would like to ask you guys, if you check it out down below, the links for everything, and also leave your opinions, what do you think of this video? What do you think of Rodney Smith's work and this discussion of, can photography become art? Or is photography an art? Or how do you see photography? And yeah, I guess that it's all for today. So take care, stay safe, keep shooting, keep creating, keep learning photography. And I'll catch you in the next one.